since the beginning of June, and maybe even before that, I have been going non-stop. And here it is about the middle of August, and life is just now starting to settle down for me, which is good. But I wanted to start off this video by saying thank you to everybody for sticking with me through this summer and all the chaos of everything that has taken place. It's been a wonderful summer. I've gotten to do so much this summer. I'm very grateful for everything that I've gotten to do, but I owe you guys a lot for allowing that to happen. For one, not being, too impatient with me for taking some time to spend with my friends this summer. But also, there are a lot of questions and comments that I need to respond to. So if I haven't responded to your comments or questions for the last couple months, it's literally only been because I just have not had the opportunity to do so. But that is my goal this week, is to sit down and to respond to everybody as best as I'm able. And also today, I am going to be answering some of your questions. So I have about 8 to 9 pages of questions here. I probably will not get to all of them in this video, but if I don't answer your question, chances are that I'll be addressing it in a live stream next Tuesday, August 20th at 5 p.m. Alaska Standard Time. So make sure that you join me then, and I will be answering a bunch of questions during that live stream. All questions that you guys have already submitted. But if you haven't submitted a question and you have something that you've been meaning to ask me, especially regarding moving to Alaska, remote properties, things like that, be sure to get your question into me so that I can include it in next week's live stream. And I really do hope to see you there. But in the meantime, let's jump right into these questions. Maybe I should talk about the mosquitoes before I start anywhere. There was a question about, is there anywhere in Alaska that doesn't have mosquitoes? Well, all of Alaska has mosquitoes. Now, even in Barrow, which sits at the northernmost part of Alaska and rarely gets above freezing year round, it does get to about mid to high 40s, but most days it's still in the 30s there. They even have mosquitoes, and the mosquitoes there, as you can see, are huge, and there's a lot of them. So yes, everywhere in Alaska has mosquitoes. Now, this footage was sent to me by a friend of mine who works up there, and as you can see, the mosquitoes are no joke in Barrow. But what I have experienced is that when you're down along the coastal areas, so Valdez, Homer, places like that where you're getting the breeze in off of the ocean, you're not going to have as many mosquitoes as what I have here. Part of the reason, though, that I have so many mosquitoes is because I have so much standing tall grasses and shrubs, even saplings on my property, densely packed forest where the mosquitoes can hang out and not be affected by any breeze or wind. And that really does allow the mosquitoes to be here. Also, just behind my property, there is a rather large pond. I need to come back here sometime with my waders on and actually get out a little closer to the water. It's really marshy. And they're breeding in some of that water in the areas that are not moving up in the grasses. So yeah, I do have a lot of mosquitoes here, but as I said, when you're along those coastal areas, they don't seem to have quite as bad a mosquito problem. Now, the other thing, a question that I got regarding mosquitoes is, how long does mosquito season last? Well, mosquito season for me generally starts at about the beginning of May, maybe middle of May, until about October. So the warmer months of the year, there are mosquitoes here. When it comes to mosquitoes, I am very fortunate that in this part of Alaska, there is an abundance of dragonflies as well as little brown bats that can help to control that mosquito population for me. And right now it's August. They are starting to die off a bit. They're still present, as you saw me waving them away, but they're not as bad as they were earlier this summer. So there are a lot of things that I could do to negate the mosquito issue that I have. And one would be to remove all of this tall grass that I have on my property. I don't know that that'll ever happen. I need to purchase a brush hog or a tractor or something like that. That was another question. Do I ever foresee me doing that? Yes, I do see, or I do have plans in the future to buy a tractor for the property. I'm just not there yet. My car has been in the shop for the last couple months because of a transmission issue and some other issues that were going on with it. And I'll explain that in a future video. But I do not have the funds right now to buy a tractor. It's one of those things where it's down the line. In the meantime, I have a community of people who are able to help me. So the gentleman who cleared the trees from my property last year is somebody who's local, and he has a bulldozer that he's able to come in and provide this type of work for people in the community. And as long as I'm able to utilize somebody like that to help out with things like this, then there's really no need for me to buy the tractor. Also, there's a gentleman in the area who I've been utilizing his services in clearing the driveway each winter, because eventually I'd like to get a plow, or if I have the tractor, I could use the tractor to clear the driveway. But again, I'm not there just yet. But a question came up about how did I find my contractor, and I'm sure they meant how did I find my contractor for my roof. That was just pure luck, actually. When I first arrived here and the building had an old farm roof on it that was leaking, I was in a desperate need to get somebody out here to at least patch up the roof because of how bad it was leaking. While looking online, I just happened to stumble across this gentleman's webpage that I'd never seen before. And I reached out to him, and he was willing to come out that same day and patch up the roof and then provide me an estimate to replace the roof. Now, my roof needed to be entirely replaced. That meant it wasn't just taking off the old shingles and applying new shingles to the sheathing that was already there. No, it was a complete deconstruction of the roof because the old roof had log rafters that were 50 years old. There was a lot of other things that I was having done on the property. But it is difficult to find workers out here, contractors that is. And that is because there are so few people out in this area that have the skill set to do the work, and so many people that actually need work done, that most of the people that are contractors in this area are either one of two things. They're booked out for the next few years, 2 to 5 years, I've heard from most of them, or they came out here to be retired and they're just not really wanting to take on the work for most people. So, you know, that is what it is. And when you find somebody who might be available to do the work, chances are they're going to be so far out that it's going to cost even more to get them to do the work because you're having to pay for their travel expenses. I live in the Copper River Basin, which is located about 4 hours east of Anchorage. I'm closer to the Canadian border than I am to Fairbanks even. And it is because this area is so vast and yet so sparsely populated in comparison to Anchorage and the Matsu Valley, Fairbanks and places like that, that it is hard to find contractors in this area. Now, I own 15 million and 5 acres. Not really. I do have stake in 15 million acres, but I personally only own 5 of those as an individual. The other 15 million acres are part of a national park and preserve called Wrangell St. Elias that my property backs up to.
I love your property here because you're in the middle of nowhere. We don't see nobody around here. It's cool. It's so peaceful and quiet. Your closest neighbors are the animals, the bears, the moose. And then it's just a great piece of land. You got the most amazing view here. You're high, you're dry, you know. What else could you ask for? You've got plenty of logs, trees, to build more if you want to build more. It's just, the possibilities are endless out here. And then your cabin, you know, when I first got here, it was like, wow, this thing is going to be a lot of work. But honestly, it hasn't been, and it's getting really nice looking. And you know, I thought there was gonna be more rot in it. There should have been a lot more rot in it. You know, no overhangs. Usually these logs don't last that long when they're wet, but you have a great house.
The gentleman who did the land clearing for me last year, I bartered with him so that he's taking all the trees that he felled on the property last year, all the spruce trees. He's taking and using those for either firewood or for lumber. The big tree that I had taken down in the front of the property, he is using for board feet of lumber. These smaller spruce trees like you see here, and I have some stacked on the other side of the cabin. In fact, on both sides of the cabin, there's some spruce trees stacked up. All of that will be bucked up for firewood. And that is something that I was hoping to have the opportunity to do this summer before it snows, so that he can come clear that off of here and we can, you know, push these roots further back into the woods. I just haven't gotten there yet. But one nice thing about having this work done for me last year is it really did knock down all the saplings and take care of some of the issues that I was having back here in the back of the property. At the beginning of this summer, I had made mention that I was worried about there being too much erosion on the property from having the back of the property cleared, and then I was worried that I would not have wildlife coming through the property. Well, neither one of those things turned out to be an issue this summer because, as you can see behind me here, the back of the property has completely regrowthed itself in vegetation. The saplings that are back here, that's what you're seeing mostly here, are about 2 feet tall. There are tall grasses that are swaying in the wind, intermixed in with those saplings. The fireweed is stronger and healthier than ever. The lingonberries are doing great, so low bush cranberries, and the soapberries, which bring in the bears. When it comes to the wildlife, I obviously did not have to worry about the lack of wildlife this summer. If you've been watching my last few videos, you've seen a ton of wildlife in each and every one of them. Everything from the mama moose and her babies to some bull moose that have come through here, and bears. Now, the bears that I've had come through my property recently, those were juvenile bears, probably about a year of age. But a young bear is still can be dangerous, so I don't take my chances when it comes to bears. And speaking of bears, I get a lot of questions about bear protection here on my property. And one of those questions always has to do with my firearms and how am I protecting myself. Since YouTube is what pays my bills, then I will very cautiously answer your questions regarding that. The first thing is that I am always armed. Whether you can see that in my videos or not, just know that I am always 100% of the time armed. If you cannot see it on my person, it is within arm's reach of me, just outside of view of the camera. But it is always there. I am never, ever outside without protection. I personally know of a few individuals in this area that have stepped out their front door only to be met face to face with a grizzly bear or a black bear. And it is because of that I don't ever step out of my cabin without having some type of protection on me. And you never know what you're going to encounter when you're out walking on your property. For example, the other day I went out to go check the trail cams, and as I approached where they are, I began to hear a noise. So I stopped to listen and figure out where that noise was coming from. Only when I began to move again did I realize that it was a flock of grouse that had been hiding in the grass. They jumped up into the trees, but it was enough to startle me. I wasn't planning on being on camera. But I'm coming out to check the trail cameras, and right up in the tree up there, I don't know if you can see him moving, but there is a grouse, and there was a whole flock of them right here. I stopped because I was hearing noises, and when I started to walk again, you have to excuse me, I'm trying to grab my gun here, but when I started to walk again, the whole flock of them took off into the trees. It scared the living daylights out of me. I get questions about what is it that I have in my holster, and did I get a new firearm. I carry a 357 in this drop holster here. Otherwise, I'm carrying 10 mil. I have a couple different 10 mils that I carry around. And also I have a large buck knife that I carry. The other question came about, why would I be carrying this if I'm standing on my porch right outside my front door in the winter months? Well, the reason for that is just because you see me filming right there outside the front door doesn't mean that I might not be wandering off camera during a filming session. And in the wintertime, there is still wildlife present on the property. So again, moose are always out year round. Moose do not hibernate, and more people have been killed in Alaska due to moose attacks than they have by any other form of wildlife in Alaska. So moose is my biggest threat here. Bears also don't hibernate all winter long. That is something that I don't think most people realize. And then the other thing is that there is also the potential for two-legged foe, and I'm defending myself against that as well. So just be aware that even if you can't see it, it's still there. So moving on from that topic, one question that I got is, do I like carrying this? And I'm used to it. I've carried for years. I carried back in Colorado every single day. And I carry here every day. So to me, it is no different than putting on my socks and shoes. Moving on from that, but staying on the topic of wildlife, just this past week, I had a pack of wolves that were just behind me here in the trail leading down to the pond. They sound like they're down at the pond. Right down that corridor. There they go again. Can you hear them? They're super close. Now they're over that way. It's pretty cool. They now have moved to the north corner, and they're still howling like crazy. It is about 11 o'clock at night right now. It's pretty cool. The last time I mentioned wolves in a video, I received a lot of comments because I stated that in this area of Alaska, an individual is allowed to shoot up to 10 wolves a day. The question came in as to why would you do that when wolves generally do not pose a threat to people? Well, they might not pose a threat to a human directly, but they do have an impact upon the livestock that people have, as well as game, whether it's large game or small game, that people in Alaska, especially in the rural and remote communities, depend upon for sustenance. And because they can have such an impact if left unchecked, as to the point where they can decimate herds of caribou and moose, that is why the state of Alaska allows for the killing of large predators. bears and wolves. Black bears especially. Black bears are more of a threat than grizzlies are, believe it or not. Grizzlies are ferocious, don't get me wrong. Generally, it is the female grizzlies you have to watch out for, especially when they have young cubs with them. Black bears, however, will attack even when not provoked. And wolves, like I said, will decimate, and so will the bears, herds of game. One of the other questions I have received regarding my firearm is how often do I actually practice? Not as often as I should. In the summer months, I am practicing getting in some shots with a variety of my firearms about once a month. But during the wintertime, that really dwindles down. Weather permitting, I will try to get some practice shots in. But for the most part, I would say that I could do better on getting some practice in, because if there is ever a threat that I need to be quick about eliminating, all the practice is going to make that shot that much more accurate. So now when it comes to livestock and game, there were a couple questions regarding that as well. One is, would I ever consider raising livestock on the property, such as chickens? And at this moment, the answer is no. Due to the wildlife that is present in this area, the bears, coyotes, wolves, lynx, things like that, I don't think I would sleep at night for fear that something was breaking into the chicken coop or into the pens where the animals were kept. I just couldn't sleep knowing that they would be in harm's way. And when it comes to chickens, believe it or not, I don't actually eat that much chicken meat, and I'm allergic to chicken eggs. So chickens are out of the question. Ducks possibly down the road, but right now I kind of have my hands full with Kenai, and also with all the projects I have going on around here, as well as all the summer travel plans. So maybe down the road. But let's talk about hunting. Do I hunt? Yes, I do actually. Now, I've only hunted since arriving in Alaska. I've gone caribou hunting twice. That was about 2 years ago that I did that. But unfortunately, after hours of glassing, we didn't see a single caribou. But word has come in that the caribou are on the move, and so tomorrow we'll head out, and it'll be a whole different situation this time. Because of the snowfall that we recently have had, we will be dealing with that as we go out on our hunt. So hopefully we have a good hunt. So I want to provide an update to the caribou hunt. Unfortunately, while we saw caribou, they were too far away for us to harvest any of them. And so we're looking to going again in the future, and hopefully we'll have better success. There were other people in the community who did manage to get a caribou. Hopefully this fall I'll have the opportunity to go caribou hunting again. I also hope to go moose hunting. Now I can hunt moose directly from my property here in the Copper River Basin. However, there are certain regulations that have to be followed when doing so. Usually it's around the dates that you're moose hunting, but I can hunt directly from here for moose and other small game. A moose would fill up my freezer, and generally what I have found is that anybody who's getting a moose or even caribou, or even if they're doing a large subsistence fishing run, whether they're doing it on the state, which gets a person about 35 fish, or I think 50 for a household, or they're doing it on the federal, because I live in a federal subsistence area. People in this area qualify for 250 salmon for an individual, and I believe 500 for a household. That's way more salmon. Even the state subsistence is way more than I would ever eat. But generally what you find is that people are giving away some of that and sharing it with their friends and neighbors and things like that, because it's way more food than most people could eat in a season, and you don't want to waste it. So generally, if someone gets a moose, they're willing to give you a quarter or what have you. If they're getting a large batch of fish that they've caught, they're willing to share some of that with you as well. So it's a nice thing, because it actually means that you don't have to be out there doing the subsistence hunts necessarily yourself, that you might be able to partake in some of the bounty that other people have gotten. I'm going to move to a different spot because the mosquitoes have discovered that I'm here. When it comes to fishing, I do fish. I absolutely love to fish. It is one of my favorite pastimes. In fact, I'm beginning to wonder if I'm the only person in Alaska who likes to go trout fishing.
Go ahead. Say that again.
I want him to not get back in the water, but he's like got himself in a little hole here.
What's in the hole?
This guy. I never fought a fish more than I did this one. In all seriousness, though, I know there are a lot of people that do go trout fishing here in Alaska, but so many people go dip netting, and their main focus is salmon or halibut, rockfish, things like that, which I have done, and I have caught actually some rockfish last summer. But this year was the first time I actually was able to catch a trout, and I love to go trout fishing. I do like salmon, but I really do like trout as well. And so it was really nice to be able to go out with some of my friends that are here local, but I had to put the camera down. And I think that might have been the ticket to allow me to catch some fish, because this is my second year where I've been able to fish in Alaska on an in-state license. And last year, other than catching the rockfish, I got skunked. There were no trout to be caught, and I did not go salmon fishing last year. But this year, luckily, I was able to finally catch a trout, and I couldn't tell you, or I could tell you that I was the happiest I'd been in a very long time. I was giggling so much at catching that trout. So the larger of the two trouts was the one I caught. And then, of course, that little tiny pan-sized trout, which hopefully I'll be showing you in an upcoming cooking video. Hopefully. I have also received a number of questions regarding my garden. And one of the questions I received was, how did I fill, or what did I use rather, to fill these raised beds that I have here inside of this run? Well, to be honest with you, I was fortunate enough that the old garden from the previous owners was still here before I had the land cleared in the back. And so most of the soil came from that previous garden. And it was very rich soil. But underneath that soil, I put in basically a hugelkultur garden. Now, I didn't use logs or anything like that, but I did use sticks and branches, pine cones, leaf litter, things like that. One nice thing about using dried leaves like this that have been sitting on the forest floor rotting is that they're full of mycelium. Mycelium is a beneficial fungus that will basically act in a symbiotic relationship with the roots of the plant, basically feeding them with a good fungi, if you will. So I'm going to continue to collect some of the forest floor, fill up the bottom half of the bed here, and then I'll be adding some soil from the garden. And then on top of that, I carted over some of the soil from the previous garden and filled it up the rest of the way with that, and then topped it off with some compost, I believe. Now, that soil was really, really rich and really nice soil to have, and I was very fortunate that it was still here and in usable condition. But when I go to do the garden in the back, I'm probably going to have to purchase a large truckload full of compost, because the garden in the back will be much larger than this garden is here. As I mentioned in my last video, this garden just is not big enough to accommodate all the things that I would like to grow. I'm only growing a small selection of what I would like between here and the greenhouse. While I am getting out an ample harvest for myself, the question came up about, will I ever be canning anything in the future? And the answer to that is yes, when I can get a large enough garden. Right now, I'm not producing enough to can anything, and I'm trying to not be dependent upon buying stuff at the store just to can it. I don't eat a whole lot of fresh produce, believe it or not, in the wintertime, which is why I typically am growing cold weather crops. The things that I do eat in the winter months that are not cold weather crops, such as carrots and potatoes, would be green peppers and zucchini, and some jalapenos. So I grew jalapenos this year. They've done great. The green peppers, not so much, so I will have to buy some green peppers. And I did get a few zucchini, but I've actually eaten through all of them, so I'll probably wind up buying some more zucchini to put away for this winter. So yes, canning in the future when I can get enough abundance from my own garden to do so. Then one of the other questions came about starting seeds, and was, why don't I start seeds indoor? Well, I actually do. It was just that this year, the seeds that I started, they did not survive. I had gone away for a week or something like that. I don't remember exactly what happened, but nonetheless, I wasn't here to tend to the seeds. They wound up all withering and dying, and so I just bought seedlings this year, which worked out great for me. Sometimes you just have to do that. But yes, I do actually start seeds indoors. And then the other question was, have I ever considered hydroponics? And I have not, because hydroponics does require, at least doing hydroponics indoors, would require some electricity, maybe even outdoors. I don't know. But I am trying to reduce my dependency upon the electric grid here. So no, I've not considered hydroponics. And also, water is a valuable resource out here. So that other question that came up regarding water was, where do I get my water? Is it at a community well? Yes, it is at a community well. There's several of them in the area. There's one that can accommodate large tanks, such as, the 500-gallon, 300-gallon tanks that someone might be able to tow on a trailer or in the back of their vehicle. There's a smaller well, a couple smaller wells actually, where you can just attach a garden hose and fill up 5-gallon jerry cans, and that is what I do. So that is it for the questions regarding the garden and water. So let's head inside, because I have some other things that I would like to share with everybody, things that you all have sent to me. I want to say thank you to all of you, and those of you who have sent in super thanks as well. Like I said, I need to get caught up on comments and welcoming you all and thanking you personally, but I want to at least take this moment to say thank you, and also to those of you who have sent in some wonderful gifts. The first gift that I received came from Rhonda, and Rhonda sent me a lovely set of kitchen knives. If you have seen some of my previous videos, you know that my kitchen knives were extremely dull. I've had those knives for years and have never sharpened them. Shame on me for that. But thanks to Rhonda, I now have a built-in knife sharpener on this set of kitchen knives. A couple pairs of kitchen shears, which are going to come in handy as well. But these have already been put to use. These did come gift wrapped, but I had to break into them because I needed to process those fish that my friends and I caught. So thank you for that, because this gift was very timely for that indeed. So again, thanks for this. And Kenai also says thank you for all of these bags of bacon strips. He is going to be set for the next few months at least, if not all the way through this upcoming winter. So thanks again, Rhonda, for all of this. And I also received some other gifts. In addition to the gifts that Rhonda sent, I also received this book called When the Water Runs. It is a book about a lady who was raised in Alaska. She was born, I believe, in 1927, and her parents raised her alongside the Alaska natives. She was, around for all the gold mining and trapping, bush pilot days, all of that. Not that those things aren't still happening, but in their heyday, Audrey was part of that. So thank you for sending me this book, John. I have not had a chance to read it yet, but it sounds like a very interesting read, and this will be one of the things that will keep me entertained this coming winter. So again, John, I really appreciate you sending me this book. And I have one more gift to share. Well, it's quite a few gifts actually, but from one couple that sent this to me. So I'm going to say thank you now, because there is so much in this next package. So the next set of gifts came from Rick and Charlotte, and they packed this little box just absolutely full of some amazing treasures. The very first one gave me a good giggle, because not everybody likes this person, but if you do, you'll get a giggle out of this too. And if you don't, I'm sorry, but I do like this person. So the first thing they sent was this big Trump flag, and I think it's hilarious and I love it. So thank you very much for sending this. It's right up my alley. And also then they sent a treasure trove, like I said, of other goodies. Everything from this Alaska art that was actually cut from the Alaska pipeline itself. And the artist who cut it is actually a friend of theirs. So thank you, Tom, for your craftsmanship and allowing Rick and Charlotte to send that to me. That is something that will definitely be cherished forever and ever. And then, as you can see, they sent a whole slew of other things here, including these little dishes. I would say they're olive dishes, but I don't honestly know what they are, but they're gorgeous little dishes. I filled it with some fat wood and matches that they've also sent. And then in addition to that, they sent this little Americana bandana and a little cast iron skillet, a little wrought iron trivet. They also sent several books my way. One of the very first books that they sent was this one, Two Into the Far North. And this is actually written about a lady. Her name is Mandy Murray. And Mandy Murray actually is an environmentalist, and she is a conservationist when it comes to the Alaska landscape and protecting the wild lands of Alaska. And so this is a book that is very fitting for my lifestyle, something that I'm very passionate about as well. And if you have not heard of this book, it is definitely a book worth reading. So there is that book she sent, or they sent. And then also this book here, which is Alaska High Roads to the Adventure. And this book is written by National Geographic photographer George F. Mobley. And it has a bunch of Alaska scenic pictures, historic pictures, things having to do with the pipeline and the earthquake back in 1964. So obviously not all these pictures are from him, but tons of information on history and life in Alaska. Very interesting read. Again, very appreciative of this book, Alaska High Roads to Adventure. And then they also sent Life in America, Alaska. So this again is a book just full about tidbits of Alaska and Alaska history, you know, gold panning, the wildlife here in Alaska, the villages, the people, and the way of life here in Alaska. So also a fabulous book, Life in America, Alaska. They also sent The Law, which is the classic blueprint for a just society. This is a great read for today, if ever there was one. And also then they sent a DVD of St. John in Exile. So also thank you for sending this. I do appreciate that. And as you can see, they've sent lots of other gifts. So prayer cards, some playing cards, and lots of other little goodies, including they sent 3 vintage travel posters for Alaska. These are an excellent thing as far as I'm concerned. I love these. These are great, and I can't wait to get them framed and up on the wall. They also sent me some clothing items. So they sent me a pair of winter gloves. These are very nice. These are more for cool days than cold days, but they will definitely come in handy. And then they sent this wonderful scarf, which I agree, you can never have too many scarves. This scarf is nice and long and very beautiful. So thank you for that. This is definitely going to come in handy this fall and winter. And then they sent me a couple garments as well. So this little hooded, well, it's actually just a turtleneck type dress that they sent. Very cute little dress. I can't show you the whole thing here, but it is adorable. So thank you for that. And it looks like it should fit just fine. And they also sent me this little vest, which I will have to find the perfect shirt to wear underneath it. So again, a little turtleneck. I keep my neck warm this winter. And all of these things are very thoughtful, very much appreciated from each and every one of you. Like I said, you watching this video as it is gift enough for me as well. So keep that in mind, is that I really appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate you spending your time with me today. And I would appreciate it also if you'd be so kind to leave me a comment down below and leave some questions for that upcoming live stream, which will be this coming Tuesday, the 20th at 5 p.m. Alaska Standard Time. I hope to have some outtakes for you here at the end of the video. And also I welcome you to join me, like I said, next Tuesday. And I'll see you again on the next video. Hopefully I'll see you in the comments on this one. Until next time, please stay safe and take care and enjoy these outtakes. Or predator control. Whew. All right, I'm getting attacked by so many mosquitoes. Comes to mosquitoes, though, I am very fortunate that mosquitoes, not loving it. Would I ever consider getting livestock here? Chickens. Okay, I just shut the phone off because there is something in the woods. I don't know what it was. But again, this is why I'm armed. Because if something comes out of that woods, I'm dropping the phone and grabbing my firearm. But I don't know what it was. Whew. Whether you've contributed through a YouTube membership, Patreon, PayPal, or you've donated to the channel in other ways, your support means a lot to me. So with that being said, that concludes today's video. I want to thank you for watching and joining me today. As always, stay safe and take care until the next time, and I'll see you then.